it is now. Also, there could be no greater living nightmare than dragging 3 children around the world. Kids are annoying enough in the supermarket. If I had to take 3 of them overseas, I would have an aneurysm before I made it down the aero bridge. The mum in Home Alone wasn't forgetful. She knew that one less kid on the holiday was the smart move. Nor have I ever understood the waste of money that is taking a toddler on an international trip. Let's pay to bring along someone who will be a challenge every waking moment and won't remember a thing. I'll admit, on occasion that's been me after a few too many resort cocktails, but that's my own money being wasted. When I was 25, which was as soon as I could afford it, I backpacked through Europe, expanding my horizons by seeing what Irish pubs look like in Rome, Berlin, and even Prague. The trip also taught me how to survive on a steady diet of jam sandwiches, ham and cheese sandwiches, or, to get some variety, jam and cheese sandwiches. It takes paying $33 for a tiny bowl of spaghetti outside a German castle to realise you always need a backup plan. A plain bread roll soaked with a mouthful of Coke provides more than enough flavour and sustenance. Since that first trip, I've travelled as often as I can, making me the man for the job of taking Dad to Europe. This in itself was out of the ordinary, because I'd never been the man for the job before. Ever. Unless that job was to get drunk at a wedding and tell the bride I had feelings for her, but for some reason there's not been a ton of requests for that after the first time. Holidays are exciting. Counting down the days until takeoff, constantly checking the weather at your destination, organising travel insurance because your parents have made you paranoid about getting everything you own stolen. I actually love the frustration of the final 24 hours, longing for the hellish long-haul flight to begin. I had almost always travelled solo because I relished the freedom. I loved knowing I could change plans on a whim, hearing about something cool and deciding to do it, or being able to ditch an annoying Brazilian backpacker who was going to get me killed by starting trouble in a bikie bar in Cusco, Peru. I'd only travelled in a group for weddings, and resort stays don't really count. The toughest choice on a beachside holiday is what cocktail to have before midday. I always choose a mango colada, as mango is a breakfast fruit. Travelling alone, I found the planning really easy too. Typically, before you book a trip, you have a discussion about where you'd like to go and how long you might spend in each place. So it was a simple case of conferring with myself, having a few arguments, storming out, cooling off, and then coming back to completely cave to my own demands. It's a system I've refined over many trips and it works. But because it was Dad's first international trip, I mapped out the journey as slowly as possible so he could contribute to the planning and feel like he was as much a part of the trip as I was. I asked questions about where he wanted to go, what he wanted to see, if he'd prefer to drive or fly between cities. Then I'd leave it with him, giving him time to think about it, the idea being that the next time we spoke, he'd have answers. Kind of like what usually happens with questions, but not with Dad involved. I'd ask, go away, only to return and discover he'd put no thought into anything. We basically hit pause the moment I left his sight. After a few weeks of this non-decision, I made a decision that giving him time was pointless. I took to asking him directly, then waiting him out until he responded, like a teacher waiting for a class to settle down, pretending they have nowhere better to be. I sat for hours at the kitchen table with Mum, sticking around their place much longer than I normally would until he finally gave me answers. The first question for any potential trip is where to go. The start was easy for us, Munich. Dad had family there, so at the very least we'd visit them. So that was a tick. Whenever he'd mused about Europe in the past, Big Ben and Buckingham Palace would almost inevitably get a mention, so London was also on the agenda. I put that as our last port of call so we could fly out of Heathrow. Tick, we were on a roll. All we had to do was fill in the blanks in the middle. Everyone has different reasons to travel. To see another culture, learn history, meet family, continue to sully Australia's overseas reputation by climbing sacred monuments while completely hammered. From what I could gather, Dad wanted to see the main tourist attractions and that was about it. There was, as I quickly discovered, far too much wiggle room. Everything between our arrival in Munich and departure from London was open for discussion. Except it wasn't a discussion because Dad could not be drawn into giving his opinion on anything. I sat at the kitchen table with my notepad, determined.